Everybody. I am live, and so I want to thank anybody that is here now for coming to my 700 sub celebration. I have about 736 subscribers, and I was supposed to do this party when I started, when I got to 700. But if you know me, you know I'm sort of scared on the whole live thing, and I'm sort of scared on the video thing. And so I was over 500 before I did my first live. And a lot of people do their lives after about 50. Oh, hi, Regina. So, Regina from Simply Fundamental is here. And she's working, so she's just stopping in to say hi, which I love. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I have topics in case nobody asked me any questions. I'm starting the poll here. We'll start the poll. Okay. And then now I should be able to see comments in the chat. There we go. Okay. So, and I'm glad, and Julie is here. See, these are some of my favorite channels, right? Happy on Monday Retirement with Julie, and Simply Fundamentals with Regina. Regina is going to retire early. She's retiring like within this next year, actually maybe next 6 months, no, 9 months. But anyway, hey, Elevated Chills, you said you were going to be here, but I thought you'd be at work. And so Elevated Chills is another channel that I'm really trying to support. He's just a hardworking guy. And, a lot of us are either retired or moving towards retirement, and he's on his way. His YouTube channel is going to make a lot of money, and that will supplement his regular income. And I don't want to tell too much of his story. You have to go watch Elevated Chills and just watch his story. But I am going to say real quick that thank you for the last video of how to change oil. And Jarrett Talks. I thought that you were live, Jarrett. I just saw, just as I was getting on my live, that you were live. And Jarrett Talks is here. He interviews people. Oh, Elevated Chills is at work. I thought he'd be at work, because he works hard. He works hard. And he has, hi T. He has Diary of a Contract Worker is what I love watching. I just love hearing what goes on at work. Because I'm retired, I don't get to see much of what goes on at work. And Regina said that she's watched Julie's channel, and so I'll go back to Jarrett there, because I was talking about Elevated Chills. And you guys just really, check him out, hardworking guy. Jarrett has asked me to be interviewed on his channel, and we couldn't do it because I was traveling, as you know, over the last couple of weeks. And I do have a list so that of an agenda, so that I don't just go off and talk for an hour. But I just wanted to acknowledge some of the people coming in. And so I am going to get with Jarrett and do an interview with him. As some of you know, I did an interview with Kendi K, and then I did an interview with The Source, and those got me out of my shell, because I have to tell you, I am the most introverted person that, oh, hey, Mary, great to see you. See, I watch Mary's Life Journey. These are all the channels that I watch. And I have to give a shout out to Jane Chicago, because she was here. I saw that she was here before the live started. At least I saw her name was here. And I have not seen her in a long time. Oh, hi, Mrs. Paula. I'm doing my 700 subscriber celebration today. And so right now I'm prattling on. I have an agenda in case nobody asks any questions about me or my early retirement or my anything. So thanks, Jarrett. And so I was mentioning that I'm going to be interviewed by Jarrett in the near future. And Mary, who lives north of me in Alabama, So she's a fellow Alabamian. There we go. And so I follow her channel, and we all know Life with T. I follow T. These are all the people that I follow are the folks that are here, for various different reasons. I'm in the personal finance space, and so I follow a lot of personal finance creators. And if you mix personal finance with retirement, well, now you've got my attention because I retired early and I started this YouTube channel well over a year ago now. Maybe a year and 2 months ago, maybe 14 months ago. But it was just a way for me to get out of my shell. I can watch YouTube, but I never thought I would have the nerve to put my face out there, let alone tell everybody my story. I go to places where they say you should wear a shirt and tie if you're speaking, right? And I never do. The best you're ever going to get out of me is a collar, right? If I wear a shirt with a collar, that's more than a t-shirt, and that's the best you're ever going to get out of me. Because I wore a tie for well over 20 years when I worked for the federal government and federal judges, and you can't go into court or a judge's chambers without your shirt and tie on, and your jacket in some courts. And I had to do that every day for many, many, many years. And so now in retirement, no more ties. And my friends get on me about that because they're like, Daryl, you should wear a tie to this and you should wear a tie to that. No. I am financially free. I don't have to wear a tie. Hi, Tiger. Tiger's another new friend of mine that I'm just really connecting with. Now, again, I talked about Tiger, I think, last week, but he retired way, way earlier than I did. I retired at 58 and a half, and Tiger retired, I think, by the time he was 50, if not sooner. Get out of here. Miranda is here. Now, Miranda's in the UK, right? Now I'm talking about everybody here in my live. I cannot believe that Miranda is here. I have watched her for God knows how long, and she and I connect because, one, she's just a fabulous person who is like building wealth at a very young age, and I love seeing that. But she also owns rental properties, and I own rental properties. And so I really connect with her when she talks about the ups and downs of owning rental properties. And excuse me, y'all, I have tears coming to my eyes because I can't believe the people that have come in here today. I just can't. And so anyway, if y'all know me, I'll get teary from time to time, especially when I think about how grateful I am for the life that I've been given. And I should be reading the chat just in case anybody has questions. You can type fire in the chat and Nightbot will drop the link to your channel. But Budget with a July Dreamer, Miranda over in the UK, you'll get to learn about UK retirement, and the various different accounts she has, but also she loves to travel. And so, Coach Mean Reed, how are you? And so Miranda loves to travel. So she goes like all over Europe and North Africa. There you go. But she travels. So she's not only building wealth, but she is enjoying her life along the way. And I just love that. And so I never miss her episodes. Coach Mean Reen is here, and she is a plus size fitness coach, right? And so I need to preserve my health, right? So I need all the fitness content, that I can get because I need to eat right. I have high cholesterol, which I'm now on medication for. I tried to get it down for a year. I tried to eat vegetables and get it down. It just wasn't coming down. So they have me on a low dose statin. And so that has taken care of it. My cholesterol is perfect now, but also I'm working on my A1C. And so if you're getting ready for retirement, working on early retirement, oh, see, I told you Miranda loves to travel. And she said it's a funny thing because she's at an airport on her way to take a trip. She prioritizes travel. She also prioritizes building wealth. But, what good is wealth? And I'm sorry, but I have sniffles because I'm crying here. Um, what good is building wealth if you don't enjoy it along the way? And so that's what I'm about, and the people that I watch, who a ton of them are actually here, which I cannot believe. Okay. You guys all have me totally emotional here. So I may not ever get to my script, which is, I was going to talk about different things. Well, hi, Mia J. I go to Mia J's lives. She's a new YouTube creator, and I support new YouTube creators, because I'm a new YouTube creator. Those people that have like 1 million subscribers, they don't need me. They don't need me. And the watch time they get and the money they make, they don't need my watch hours or my time. One of the things I'll tell you guys about me is that I don't follow sports. I don't follow celebrities because these people already have their wealth. They already have millions and millions of dollars. They don't need mine. I don't buy sports jerseys. This is just me personally telling you how I am. Now, if you follow college sports or you follow professional sport, go for it. I never tell anyone else how to live their life, but I like to be real about how I live my life, which is, as most of you know, I'm trying to live on $900 a month. I make more than $900 a month, but that's what's left over from my pension. Now, if anything I make over that $900 a month, and again, I'm not there yet. I'm trying to work my way down to not spending more than $900 a month. But anything I make over that $900 a month is saved and invested. That's the plan, to build more wealth. Now, I have plenty. I have enough to survive, and I probably have enough just to get by, for the rest of my life. However, I'm never going to stop building wealth because that's more that I can leave to my wife or more that I can leave to charity. And yes, I'm leaving most of my money to charity. So that's okay. That's okay. That's what I want to do. I will tell you, one of the places where I'm leaving money is a fraternity, right? It's an honor society, right? I am a guy who could not pass one college class in my past. And I tried and I tried and I tried to pass one college class and couldn't do it. Well, when I was about 35, I said, I'm just going to take one college class to prove that I could have gone to college. And so I did that. And I took one more college class and one more. And many, many years later, I was taking college classes for my master's degree. And when I finished my master's degree, this honor society invited me to become a member of the honor society. And you have to have a 4.0 GPA to get into this honor society. And I could not believe that I was so blessed that not only did I pass one college class, but I went on to have a 4.0 GPA. So yes, I teach in colleges now, and I really push my students to, one, become business owners, because that is the way to wealth, is to become the business owner and to own your life. Tell your money where to go instead of wondering where your money went. But I had to learn all these things. Another thing that I learned in college is that advertisers' job, and they're very good at this, is to separate you from your money. And I learned that early on in college. And so I set out on this personal crusade. And so you guys are like getting to know the real me and just how crazy I am. But I set out on this personal crusade that advertisers were not going to separate me from my money. They're really good at it. It's like in the store, when you go into a store and they have stuff on the edges of the aisles, they're there for a reason, right? The stuff that they put around the store, like the vegetables and the fruit, those colors are there for a reason. They're not just randomly placed where they're placed. You've got around the store, and people don't think about this. Okay, I'm on a soapbox now. Everybody sit down because Daryl's on his little soapbox. But what they do is the stuff you need is around the edge of the store because they want to make sure that the meat, the eggs, the vegetables, the stuff you need is around the edge of the store. See? So when I go to the store, I know what I'm going to get. I go in, I grab what I got to get, and I'm out, right? I don't go around the store and up and down the aisles. I just don't. And that can be frustrating to my wife because my wife wants to go in the store with a shopping cart and meander around, right? And I'm like Mr. Speed Racer, if you're old enough to remember that cartoon. I'm like Mr. Speed Racer. I'm in, I'm out. You never even saw me come in the store. So I'm off my soapbox now. But my point is that I have built wealth by not spending the little bit of money that I had coming in. So it's not about making a lot of money. It's about keeping the money that you have, whatever that amount is. So on my channel, you never hear me talk about, well, you should be making a ton of money and you should be making $1 million a year. No, I didn't. I was making $80,000 a year, working for the federal government with no pay raise. So I had to learn to live in the Washington, D.C. area, very high cost of living area, on $80,000 a year. And that was a blessing. At the time, I was very hurt and very upset. But it was a blessing because I learned to live on less. So even in retirement, I have learned to live on less. And it doesn't mean that I don't travel. I don't travel like Miranda. I mean, she does like these fabulous vacations. I get in my car and I drive. So I just got back from 2 weeks where I drove up to Omaha, Nebraska. And if you watch some of my videos, you'll see that I visited family and friends in Kansas, which is where my family is from originally. But I go to Kansas every August, and then I go up to Omaha, Nebraska to visit friends, and then I come home. So this is now my annual August vacation. And on the 4th of July, I went to Vancouver, Canada. And then in June, I went to Tallahassee, Florida, which is right next door to me. But still, it was a weekend vacation. So this was my third vacation this summer. And that's what I mean, is when you retire early, it's a beautiful thing that you can go on vacation when you want to go on vacation. Now, one of the things that I'm really big on, that you all know, is side hustles. And so I should read the chat. Coach Mean Reed says the final test is that candy by the cash register, right? Because I will tell you, I am a Doritos fan, right? My nacho Doritos. Been eating them 50 years. Been eating these nacho Doritos. If they put those nacho Doritos near the checkout, which they do, like they'll have like a little stand of packages of Doritos, I have to walk away. Because I will tell you guys know that I was homeless. Well, I used to live on Doritos and a can of orange soda. That was it. That's all I had to eat for the whole day. And so when you come from that place to where I am today, where I can get in my car. Last year I drove around the country for a month and a half in my car. I stayed with friends, I stayed at hotels, but the point is I visited friends around the country. How does that happen to a guy who used to only have a bag of Dorito chips and an orange soda? How does that happen? It's because I'm very blessed. And that's why my channel, I'm not reading the chat. I'm just prattling on, and I guess I'll get to the chat here in just a moment. T has a question. Do you have a target time to go into full retirement without teaching? And if you have a plan to talk about that at a later date, skip the question. T is so cool. T is just so cool. She's always thinking ahead. I mean, the brilliance of that woman, way above me, okay? It's just up there, her insights. No, I do. And I should talk about that. That's perfect. Thank you for getting me off of my soapbox and off of my, tirade. Right now, I teach in college. In a couple of years, now here's the thing about Social Security. And one of the things about building wealth and retiring early is having knowledge. One, about the tax code, but two, about Social Security and all the other rules that are out there. So I am at an age now where I could take Social Security. I could do that. The problem is I make more than $23,000 a year in teaching. And when you make more than $23,000 a year, Social Security penalizes you. Now, having said that, I need to explain, they don't take the money forever. You get that money back later, but I don't want them taking any of my money for any period of time and getting it back later. So at 66 and a half, right? This is where you have to know all the different rules. At 66 and a half, you can make 55,000, maybe 60,000 by the time I get there per year without penalty. So I am waiting until I'm 66 and a half, because at 67, you can make as much money as you want, right? But at 66 and a half, I'm going to take Social Security because I make less than $55,000 a year teaching. Now, having said that, I want the teaching income and the Social Security income. And to specifically address what T was asking, is I do plan to stop teaching once I get Social Security, because Social Security will replace my teaching income. So this is the way that my life works. My teaching income, because I had 4 colleges, maybe 5 at the time, I'm down to 3, just so you know, I'm working my way down, okay? But I had 4 or 5 colleges at the time where I was making over $80,000 a year. So when my teaching income equaled my government income, I could step away from the government and get my pension, right? So now, not only am I making $80,000 teaching, I've got a government pension. Plus, I'm taking that money that's extra and I'm investing it in real estate. So now I'm buying more real estate. So my real estate hasn't quite paid off yet because I bought low-cost properties that take a lot of fixing up, and they're just not cash flowing the way that other people will buy a rental property and they did it perfectly and everything's cash flowing and they're making $3,000 a month off of one rental. That's just not me. That's just not me. What I'm doing with my rental properties is I'm building equity, right? Because the renters are paying down the loan. Well, as the renters pay down the loan, that money isn't coming to me because most of my money goes to fix up the properties every month. But I can use that equity at a bank and take that equity to the bank and say, I want to buy more rental properties. See, again, you have to have knowledge on how the system works. I did not have any of this knowledge. People taught me. Bankers taught me how to use equity to buy more rentals. I didn't just know that, right? Um, People taught me go to school so that you can become a teacher, right? The reason that I have a PhD is because the government cut my pay and I needed extra money. So I figured if I get a PhD, I can teach and make back the money that the government cut. That was the original plan. I didn't realize that the teaching income was going to outpace the government income. I didn't know that in the beginning. And so all of that allowed me to retire early. And so, I tell you, my life has been one blessing after another blessing. And I tell you, when I think this is the worst thing that could happen to me in my life, like when the government cut my pay, right? And so when that happened, I said, this is the worst thing in life, getting a pay cut with a government job. Well, it was not, because I was forced to live on less. And to this day, I still live on less. I don't care how much money I make, I am going to live on less. And what happens is that money starts to snowball, like Dave Ramsey's debt payoff snowball. As you start to snowball your debts, they start going away faster and faster. When you start snowballing your wealth, you get wealthier faster and faster. And so that's been my story. And so at this time, and Spousewife who's here, thank you, Spousewife. I love her channel. I was just over there yesterday watching her make a blueberry pie, which because of my A1C, I can't eat a blueberry pie. So I was just a watcher. Sometimes there's stuff on YouTube that you just watch and you go, I could never do that. I could never eat that. Like some people cook on YouTube and you go, I could never cook like that. I'm a microwave cooker. Okay. So I am not the chef like Cooking Beauty or some of these other folks on YouTube that do cooking. I'm just not a chef. And so, okay, so you guys, if you have a question, throw it in there. If I missed your question, come back with it again because I may have missed it. But T had a good one. I do have a plan for my future, and I just made a video where I talked about hiring a tax planner, right? And who said that? Lala. Hi, Lala. Okay, juicing. Everybody go get a juicer because Lala has got energy and juicing. And maybe it comes from the juicing that she has all the energy. I don't know, but that woman has energy. So anyway, I'm going to tell you guys, I have a plan. And sometimes I don't have a plan. I have a plan for when I plan to stop teaching, because as one income stream replaces another income stream, then I drop that income stream and that becomes passive income. And the more passive income streams you have, the freer you are, right? And I will talk about Mrs. Paula because her and her husband have a boat. They just got a boat. And I have a place at the lake and I want a boat, right? So I watch her and her husband out on the water on their boat. And I'm like, if I can have another passive stream of income, it will pay for the boat. See, have your assets pay for your liabilities. And I learned that from Robert Kiyosaki, and that is what I do. It's what I've done over the years, right? That's why my real estate buys me more real estate. It's an asset that buys me another liability, which is another piece of real estate, which turns into another asset eventually. Because I have a long-term plan, it's not get rich quick, right? It's get wealthy slowly. That is my long-term plan. And so you guys know Ninja Turtle, which came from my motorcycle riding group, but I am truly a turtle. The guys that I used to ride with, those guys do 100 miles an hour. I'd be good to do 90, but I'm always slower than the guys I ride with, especially in the mountains when there's curves and turns. Well, it's the same with our finances. Life throws us curves and turns. It is not a straight shot up. It's just not. Building wealth is one step forward, two steps back, one step forward, two steps back. And the more I learn, the more I can grow. So going back to what I was, lost my train of thought there, going back to what I was talking about, which is I just recently hired a tax planner. And this is a real estate tax planner. And this guy cost me a ton of money, which I'm not used to spending, but he's worth every penny because he's given me a plan for the next 10 years. And T was asking about Social Security or when I plan to stop teaching. Well, if my Social Security replaces my teaching income and my real estate eventually replaces my Social Security income, that means that eventually I will have a pension, I will have Social Security, I will have real estate. And so if I can only live on my pension income, right, and use my Social Security and my real estate income to buy more real estate, to invest more in the stock market, what would happen if I took my whole Social Security check and put it in my Vanguard account every month? How fast would the wealth grow? So that's my point. Everybody has to have their own plan. You know, my plan is very long. It's a long-term plan, but so far it's been working. And I tell you, that's only by grace. That's only by grace. I have done everything wrong. I retired with not a lot of money, didn't have a lot in my 401k. I'm not a 401k millionaire, you know, and I will tell you, I loaned out money from my 401k and lost some of that money. So I have not done finances perfectly at all. There are ups, there are downs, right? And I will tell you right now, what I do is I put money into the retirement accounts of the schools where I teach. And so basically that's pretty much all the retirement accounts I have, because the other money is loaned out. I can't touch it. I've either lost it or I won't get it back for 7 years where I've loaned the money out. So my retirement account, let's say 401k, is $125,000. It's not a lot by a lot of people's standards. It's not. The point is, I don't need a lot because I have the pension. So it's not like I'm going to my 401k and saying, give me this money every month because I need that money. I don't. Do I plan on putting more money into those retirement accounts before I quit teaching? Yes. I'm just at a point now where I had to take a step back this year and stop contributing my paychecks to the 401k for this year. I'm putting very little in for the rest of this year. But again, when you have a setback, all you do is start over. So at the beginning of 2026, my plan is to put 100% of my teaching income into their retirement accounts. When I get Social Security, put 100% of the Social Security money into my Vanguard brokerage account. See, I invest. Every penny I save, I invest. And it comes back later. Now, again, just so we know, hi DeFam Adventures. Those people cruise. DeFam Adventures. See, these are all channels I watch. All of my friends, people I watch that I'm subscribed to are here. And it's just fabulous. And I met a lot of them through Life with T. You know, she's my first connection out here. I started following her and she introduced me to Jane Chicago and, oh boy, just all kinds of people. And so anyway, Life with T is like my anchor, right? From her, all of this stuff came. Hi, Faith. Thank you for coming to my 700 subscriber celebration. Faith Marie Unscripted. Once I got into the Are You Locked In community, because I followed T through an interview with Queen's Alchemy, and through that I found the Are You Locked In community. Through that I found Faith Marie, right? And so, You want to talk about somebody that knows editing, right? See, everybody here has an unfair competitive advantage. And Faith can do editing, she can do vlogging, she can tell a story, right? That is her competitive advantage on YouTube. Everybody here has a competitive advantage on YouTube, right? I don't know what mine is, but I know everybody has one. I see all of yours. I have a hard time seeing anything in mine, right? Because one, I'm scared to be here, and I can't even believe I'm doing lives every week. This is just amazing to me. A guy who was scared to show his face on a camera is now doing a weekly live. And so it's about pushing through your fears, right? The fears of success holds a lot of people back, right? The fear of retiring early holds a lot of people back. They just keep working one more year, one more year. If I just have a little bit more in my 401k, right? If I just have one more rental property, I can retire. And as I said, I did it all wrong. I just pulled the ripcord and said, I hope and pray that I'll be okay. And so far I have been. Again, only by grace. So don't do life the way I did it, right? I'm not one of these YouTubers that gets out here and says, well, you should do what I did. Nope. Do what works for you. Tiger on Fire. I found him, I don't know if it was 6 months ago, but within this past year is when I first started seeing his channel. But he and his wife have just retired. Well, he retired, then his wife just retired. But they are downsizing. They're going to travel the country. I love people that retire and travel the world. I watch a few channels where people just retired. They sold everything, sold their primary residence, everything, and just traveled the world. And I love that. That to me is like the ultimate freedom. Because I've had jobs where I've traveled around the country, and I've had jobs where I've traveled around the world. And I would love to travel around the world. But I have a house, I have a puppy, and I have a wife. So I'm here, right? But we do have our little RV at the lake, so I can go fishing, right? And I do get out to visit my friends around the country. And spoiler alert, I will tell everybody, and because I've told this to the source. If you guys haven't been over to the source, go over there. But I told him, he lives in Maui, and in January, I am going to Hawaii for the very first time. See, because retirement for me is about living your dreams. And going to Hawaii has always been one of my dreams. And so sometimes you have to say, I am going to make my dream come true. I don't care what it costs. And so that's me. That's me. Once in a while, I spend a boatload of money. And that's what Hawaii is going to cost me. And as you all know that we're here a little bit earlier, I don't spend money every single day, right? I don't do that. I go and drop a lot of money in one shot. That's just how I operate, And some people spend money every day and, they go out and they buy this and buy that, and that's fine. That's them. I don't do that, but I will drop a chunk of money on something, whether that be like rental properties. I will drop a chunk of money on some rental properties. When you might say, well, Daryl, you should be filling up your 401k. You shouldn't be spending money. You should be putting more in your retirement account. Well, I put a little bit in my retirement account as I can, right? So I'm always building my retirement account. So I have a Roth and I have traditional, but I'm trying to put more into the Roth because I just think that tax-free money in the future is better than partnering with Uncle Sam in the future, where Uncle Sam tells you how much he gets in the future. So I don't like that. So I'm more of a Roth person. But again, this is all about living life, and I talked about Miranda and Budget with a July Dreamer earlier. who is on her way on vacation now. DeFam Adventures. You know, he talks about, he drops a chunk of money and he says we call it groceries. You know, and we talked about how stores, you know, really want to separate you from your money, you know. But DeFam Adventures, they go on cruises. And I've only been on one cruise. It was a cruise to Alaska many years ago. It was like to celebrate graduating with my master's degree. But the point is, I had no money when I went on that cruise. So I couldn't do any of like the excursions, right? In my past, I had no money. Today, I want to enjoy life. It doesn't mean that I have a ton of money. It just means I'm very strategic with where I spend my money, which allows me to, who is it, Ramit Sethi? I'm saying his name wrong because different people pronounce it differently. He says, spend lavishly on the things that you love and cut fearlessly on the things that you don't. And I subscribe to that. So I'm a little bit of Dave Ramsey. I'm a little bit of Ramit Sethi. I'm a little bit of Robert Kiyosaki. All of these different financial people, I'm a little bit of each. But that's why personal finance is personal. You have to do your finances for what works for you and your family. And that's the beautiful thing about personal finance. And that's probably why I watch so much personal finance content on YouTube, because I've learned so much over these years that, like, while I'm teaching and grading students, I'm watching YouTube off to the side. I have my phone just sitting off to the side. And so I'm learning 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. I'm learning. I watch a lot of certified financial planners. That's how I learned that if you put your money into the right retirement accounts and the right investments, like a mix of Roth, a mix of traditional, a mix of brokerage accounts, when you retire, you could pull $100,000 a year in income and pay no taxes. I did not know that. I did not know that until a certified financial planner showed me a case study of a couple that was doing that. And then I went out and I did research. So there's a video I have out there on how to make $100,000 a year and pay zero in taxes. Now, that's $100,000 a year. I don't have the various different accounts that these people have, you know, like a traditional that has a ton of money in it, and a Roth that has a ton of money in it, and a brokerage account that has a ton of money in it. My brokerage account, $2,000. I know that's tiny compared to everybody else. However, I plan on building it in my future. So, yeah, I'm a tiny guy with a little bit of money, but I plan. And I plan on building wealth more in the future. So, get out of here. Money Conversations is here. Love it. I missed meeting her, but she is another YouTuber that does personal finance content. She's a stay-at-home mom, and I love that she manages her family's finances. I mean, I know she talks to her husband about it, but my point is she makes sure that her family is going to be all set when they retire. See, now she just did her first live just recently, and I was there. I missed her second live, but I was there for the first one. And Tiger, I missed his first live. So I want to be there on other people's lives, because when you're a new YouTube creator and you're doing a live for the first time or second time or third time, oh, it's nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking. And as you all have seen, I made mistakes on a bunch of my lives because I did this and I did that and I didn't know this and I didn't know that. So one of the things that I saw in an Are You Locked In community that I was on a live, this guy was on there and he talked about making yourself instructions. He said, if you're going to do YouTube, whenever you're going to do something, have a set of instructions for your camera, for your lighting. Have a set of instructions. So what did I do? I made a set of instructions. Wow, I cannot believe Jeff is here from the Retire Mentality. But I cannot believe all the different people that are coming through. And I haven't not gotten back to DeFam Adventures on their cruises. So anyway, my point is, now I have a list of instructions for when I go live. Do this, turn your camera this way, hit the button, go here, set the time, the date, all of these things. Now, there was a few weeks ago where I didn't follow those instructions and it messed up. And so ever since then, I follow my own instructions. Have yourself a set of instructions. Hi, Queen. I was talking about how I found the Are You Locked In crew by supporting T, who was being interviewed by you. So then that's how my channel started to grow through all of this. And so I have to get back to Jeff because I do not want to forget this. Jeff is a person who retired early, right? And now he lives in Spain. See, these are the people I watch, people who are living their dreams. Retire early. He lived in the Virgin Islands. Then he has a house in Puerto Rico. And now he and his wife have bought a place in Spain. You know, we all can do this. We all can retire early and live our dreams. And I watch people who are living their dreams. And so Jeff has this t-shirt. I keep trying to get him to make merch, right? But Jeff wears this t-shirt that if I could get it made, I'd get it made. It says FIRE, which is Financial Independence Retire Early. His says FIRE, F-I-R-E. It's Financial Independence Recreational Employment. When I saw that t-shirt, I said, that's me. My teaching is recreational employment because I'm finally, let me drink me a little bit of coffee here because I'm going on and on. Never even got to my whole thing in case nobody had questions. My teaching income at the beginning of 2025, right? I was putting 100% of my teaching income into their retirement accounts. I was not bringing any money home. I'm teaching for free, investing the whole amount. Well, as I said, life happened and I had to stop doing that about halfway through the year. Didn't even make it to May. I think I stopped in May of putting 100% of my teaching income into retirement. But at least that's gotten me up to where I'm at 125,000 in those retirement accounts at the colleges. Again, life happened, so I had to stop. So for the rest of the year, I'm not putting money into those retirement accounts. However, I keep track of my savings rate, which is of all the income that I bring home, how much of it am I saving? And I am down to, because it keeps going down every month that I don't put money into the teaching retirement, but I am at a 35% savings rate. That is still very high. The Money Guy show says 25% savings rate is what you should have, right? I was at a 70% savings rate at the beginning of 2025. So yes, life happened. Yes, I had to stop. Yes, I've sort of fallen off the wagon. However, in January of 2026, we try it again. We try it again. And that's me. My life is all about just try it again. You know, if you fall off the wagon, try it again. If your YouTube video doesn't work right, try it again. I'm getting a little better. I am nowhere near where I wish I was. If you guys ever watch Faith Marie, I told her, because her stuff was so good and my stuff was so bad, I told her, I said, come back in 5 years and look at my videos in 5 years. Because I have seen a lot of people on YouTube just fade away. I have seen beautiful channels helping tons of people just fade away. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I want to be here for the long term, so I'm pacing myself. And I also want to enjoy retirement, So YouTube will never become a job. I do like a Wednesday video and I do my Friday live. That's it. I'm not going live 5 times a day. I'm not doing all that because YouTube is not a job for me, right? You all know who are here that if I ever get monetized or when I get monetized, because we're on our way, we're at that 736 subscriber mark. We're on our way. And yes, it could take me 2 years. Do I care? No. Am I trying to do it in 6 months? No. Now, there is a new young lady that I'm watching. I'm trying to give everybody a shout out that I can think of right now. Her name is La, and she is wallet watching. And her family are trying to get monetized in 90 days. So if you get a chance, go try and support her so that she can get monetized in 90 days. They have sold a car, they have sold a couch, they are getting out of debt seriously. And these are the people I follow. Small YouTube creators that are really doing this thing. A lot of people are getting out of debt and on YouTube for different reasons. And I support people doing whatever YouTube can do for you. I support you doing that. If it can help you retire early, there was a lady that was on that needed YouTube money to get an attorney so that she could put her family back together. That is what YouTube is for. It is for whatever works in your life. If YouTube is for to pay for your vacations or to replace your 9-to-5 income, use YouTube for that. I had my teaching income replaced by 9-to-5. So I don't use YouTube for that. You all know that I do YouTube, and this is just funny because T was just talking about this. She was talking about how she is not bothered by people asking for money on YouTube. She just did a video about that. And that's just been this big recent controversy, right? And I was going to make a video on it, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it now so I don't have to do a 10-minute video on this. But part of the reason that when I decided to do YouTube, I made a conscious decision. When I said I'm going to turn on this camera, I said I am not doing this for the money. I'm going to donate all proceeds to the homeless in this little town that I live in. Because we have a lot of poor and homeless people in my town that could use help. And yes, I volunteer at the soup kitchen and I hand out lunches and I do other volunteer activities. But also on top of that, I could donate YouTube money on top of what I do in the community. But my point is, part of the reasoning for that was because I watched videos before I got on YouTube of people that they said they call it dry begging, and I'm not saying it's good or bad, but what I'm saying is they got monetized almost immediately. 25,000 views. Somebody living in their car, 25 years old. One lady had her son living in the car with her and talking about her husband put them out. Of course she had 25,000 views. Now I don't know, I stopped watching stuff like that because it was telling YouTube that's what I wanted to see. And it was just sad. It was just sad. There was another lady that had to go back to work after she retired. I don't ever want to have to go back to work after I retired. I think I'm done doing the 9-to-5. Now, having said that, I've worked multiple jobs at one time. I've always had 2 or 3 jobs, always. So I would drive down the street and it's hard for me not to look over at a building and say, I think I could go put in an application over there and work another job on top of, all the stuff I'm doing now. It's in my soul to work multiple jobs. But I'm telling you, I cannot do a 9-to-5. I just can't. Once you've tasted freedom, there's no going back. Not for me. Not for me. And if I manage my money correctly, which I've told you guys all these itty bitty things that I do, right? If I manage my money correctly, I'll never have to go back to a 9 to 5. I mean, yeah, I don't have big accounts and I can't live off of my retirement account or anything like that. But someday my real estate is going to replace all of those other streams of income. Someday, and some people don't want to wait on someday, but I'm doing wealth slowly. That's just how I'm doing it. And love it with Money Conversations. She says that freedom of time is priceless. And so she said she has that freedom of time now because she's a stay-at-home mom. And so her channel is Money Conversations, and everybody type fire in the chat, and then your channel will come up so that other people can connect to your channel, right? And I did a video on how to set up Nightbot for your lives because I saw Nightbot on other people's lives and said, I wonder how you do that. I thought it was something you pay for, or I thought it was something that like came with StreamYard. I just didn't know. I didn't know it was free. And if you know me, I'm really big on free. I don't care. Free this, free that, free this, free that. Okay? That's just me. I could have all the money in the world and I still want free because that gives me more money that I can save and invest. And so I cannot believe you guys brought me to tears today, which I was not expecting. I have this thing to talk about, like personal finance foundations, in case nobody was here and nobody had any questions or didn't want to say anything in the chat. And Spouse Wife says that's that wonderful Midwestern work ethic. Well, I'll tell you, Spouse Wife, I have been broke, poor, and coming out of homeless shelter. I know how to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs. 1 year, I had 10 jobs. I had 10 W-2s. And that's including my full-time government job. Because I hustle, right? A lot of it was survival, but I'm sort of past the survival point now. So I don't want to sit here and go, well, I'm just scraping by. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I've got my pension. I've got my teaching income. And my rental income is just barely starting to flow. But you never know with rental income. You could be going along, bopping along, and next thing you know, a bathroom floor just rotted through. And that just wiped out your whole year's profit. So nobody's going to tell you real estate is easy. No, don't let anybody tell you that. It's worth it to me. Over the years, the equity and the appreciation of my real estate is absolutely worth it. And so Spouse Wife says that she's always worked 2 jobs and a side hustle. That's what I'm asking everybody here to do. Get your hustle on until you don't need to hustle anymore. And that's where I'm at. I don't need to hustle. I don't need the YouTube income. And I cannot believe that I went the whole hour without ever getting to any of my points in case nobody showed up. I do have a free worksheet. There's a link in the description that is a wealth builder worksheet, right? And it's a Google sheet, so it's like a spreadsheet that you can download, and you can track how you're building your wealth. So track your net worth. I track my net worth every month because of all my different rental properties. As renters pay, then I pay the mortgage, and I pay the insurance, and I pay the maintenance, and I pay property taxes. My value goes up because I owe less, right? Now, am I making a killing in real estate? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. However, and Regina with Simply Fundamental, she has a rental property. I gravitate towards people, that are trying to build wealth and do real estate. Now if you've got like one of those millionaire 401ks, more power to you. I wasn't able to pull that one off. So that's why personal finance is personal. Have a great day, Mia J. T said that too. And I'm getting off here. And Shadow Scout Swede has come through. Good Lord. Good Lord. All the people I subscribe to have come to me today, and thank you all. My time is up. I do 1 hour lives because I start on time and I end on time. So I'm going to thank everybody for coming. And please put fire in the chat before I close this thing out so that anybody that wants to get to your channel can get a link to your channel. Because this is all about everybody grow. Everybody make as much money as you can on YouTube. And so I will be back again next Friday. I've just gone over my 60-minute limit, so I'm going to say goodbye to everyone. And so, yes, thank you for putting your stuff in the chat so that everyone can find your channel so that your channel can grow. And I'm going to keep watching all of you. Thank you all for coming to my 700 subscriber celebration. And I'm sorry I never got to a single topic that I had to talk about. But that's life. That's how I roll, So I'm going to say goodbye, and because we need to end this thing before the next 12 seconds goes away, and then I'll be a minute over. Okay, bye everybody. See you next week.